recorded.
All right.
Yo, why did it sounds every time we press record on this thing, it sounds more and more like we're calling a prison. Like on them collect call things. Yo, welcome back to another episode of the Fatherhood podcast. Today we are joined by the Bronx has a borough president, right? But I look to this man as like almost like the governor of the Bronx, right? For a long time. He's not even originally from the Bronx. He has impacted the Bronx youth in ways that I think most people wish they could. Well, maybe not most people. Some people wish they could, but have never really been able to. I would dare to say, and Bervin, well, I'd let the cat out of the bag, but it doesn't matter. You'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like what you've been able to do has likely saved the lives of hundreds, maybe thousands of young folks in and around the Bronx. He is the co-founder and CEO of Renaissance Youth Center in the South Bronx. He has provided a service to the community that I think is unrivaled. And when schools have been pulling budgets to not allow for extracurricular activities like music programs, sometimes sports programs, and other educational programs, Renaissance Youth Center has stepped up and provided these services for the youth of the Bronx in pretty impactful ways, garnering the attention of luminaries, politicians, you name it. All folks have been able to come down to the center, see this firsthand, and leave with tears in their eyes with respect to the magnitude of the impact of what Bervin and his staff have been able to accomplish. So without further ado, good friend of mine is joining the podcast today. His name is Bervin Harris.
Awesome. Oh, we got sound effects and everything. It's on.
Nice.
Oh, it's party time.
Hey. I want to first thank Fatherhood podcast for allowing me to be up here. I think, Manny, you're going to learn a lot about me. So you know about me as a producer, as a sports guy, and as a guy who's a social developer. But as a father, that I am first. And the fact that I used to run fatherhood initiatives in my early day, I'm excited to kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and that's
you asked me a question. You said about thousands of lives, right? So this word is, I used to say that, hey, we save hundreds, we sustain thousands, but I'm probably not going to say that anymore. I'm going to say that we're saving thousands of lives, right? So
it's been about 20 years now, right?
It's been about 20 years, and we work with about 4,000 kids a year, right? Running services. But when I say saving lives, I was always talking about the ones that were on the edge, the quote unquote at-risk youth. But I'm going to present an argument and say that I think most of our youth are at risk. So just because I'm a C average student or a B average student, they're the ones who are cutters. They're the ones who are running away. When I say cutter, those are the ones who are, on the edge of committing suicide. Those are the ones who don't reach their shall be's, right? They never got a chance to be exposed enough to know that I could be another Manny. I could be a DJ EFN because I never met you. So you know what? We're saving those lives as well. So we're saving thousands, bro.
And imagine what one is worth in terms of the reverberation of what that one person could create other lives and who they affect and stuff like that, right?
Absolutely. Look at what you guys do as a one, right? So you're affecting your spouses, your loved ones, your family, your children, the people you come in contact with. You're changing a culture and you're just one person.
I want to tell a very quick story about Bervin. Actually, it's not even a story, it's just comments. So I mentioned all the things he's been able to, actually some of them. He does way more than what I was able to introduce.
Well, Manny, real quick.
Yeah.
How did you come to know Bervin?
Yeah. So
is this the story?
It's part of it.
Okay.
I came across Bervin. So I worked at a company many moons ago called EcomWorks. So EcomWorks was founded by a wonderful woman, Carol Altarescu. So Carol Altarescu's husband, Carol's amazing. But her husband was until recently the chairman of Renaissance Youth Center. At the time, it was called REMS, basically REMS, and he was in the newspaper. His daughter got married. They had like in the New York Times, they had like an announcement of the wedding, and I happened to read it because it was thrown in the office, and it was like Howard out to rescue, blah blah, chairman of this organization in the Bronx. And me being from the Bronx and reading the summary of what that organization does in the Bronx, I was blown away. I was 19 years old, I think, at the time. And I was like, I don't know these people. I don't even know Howard. I knew Carol. Now, but I was like, yo, Carol, how do I get involved in this? Because this is me. The people that this organization is serving, that's who I am. I come from these streets. And one thing leads to another. I get introduced to Bervin. And from there, I've been attached to Renaissance, ever since. And we've been able to bond and develop a relationship ourselves, so much so that I'm on the board of the organization now. But what I was going to say also was Bervin has this amazing ability of hooking them and cooking them is the term that he uses, right? So like, let's be honest, like kids don't really want to get involved in an organization like a youth center if it doesn't have a quality bait to it. Today, that might mean video games, as an example, right? Back in the day, it might have been basketball or something that's connected to the streets that they could see as fun and entertaining and don't get considered like a herb or a punk or some sort of, whack person. So he's been able to do that in a really effective way. And like, no lie, like he has single-handedly talked kids right out of committing suicide in a moment's notice. Like the impact this man has, like I have so much respect for. But the father side of Bervin, we haven't really talked about very much. And you have 4 kids, right? 3? 3.
Right.
Twins and then your daughter. Twin boys and a daughter. All right. So talk to us a little bit about you as a father. Because you have an interesting dynamic with your kids and mother of your children and all that.
I definitely want to do that. Can I just take 1 minute?
No.
And just explain to the listeners what is Renaissance Youth Center?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Get your advertisement in. Let's do this.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. We're located right here in the South Bronx on 3rd Avenue between 167th and 168th Street. For all of us who know this area, it's not the best area in the world. That being said, what we try to do is fill the gap, that the school is not doing, the churches aren't doing. We try to figure out how can we do that. So we're the fathers to the fatherless and the mother to the motherless, if you will. And I'm a big believer in exposure. So the big thing of what we do is music. And I would probably guesstimate and say, because there's nothing written anywhere, that about 90% of our public schools don't have music programs in them. Right. I'm talking about no orchestra, no band, no dance, no sing-along, no nothing. And so we go out, we're currently right now in 27 different schools that we service, and we bring those music programs. And then we have our own Mecca location right here, where I have 30,000 square feet. Right now I'm sitting in our recording studio. I'm big on quality. So when a kid walk into a program, if you're my coach, you better play somewhere, man. You better know about coaching and don't just scream at me and curse at me, right? So it's about building those kinds of relationships as well. And you're right, man. It's never been about getting a kid to the NFL or NCAA, but can I get you to become a law-abiding citizen with something positive to offer society? And I do that by offering this carrot of basketball or music, get you in the door and offer you social development and academic enhancement, right? So that's what we're really all about. Heavily involved in STEM right now. We got this new thing called the robotics program. I'm calling it Codebotics because they're learning about coding and robotics. But that's what we do here in Renaissance Youth Center. So I just want to kind of put that plug out there. And if you have any talented young people who are in the 5 boroughs, we have auditions going now for the MWAM band. The MWAM band does about 100 shows a year everywhere. And we look for talented young people from the ages of 6 to 21, and I pay them to tour with me throughout the summer. Wow. All right. So if DJs, dancers, musicians, singers, bring them. We're all about that life. All right.
And MWAM stands for Music with a Message, by the way.
Music with a Message. Absolutely. But you ask a question. That question is a very good question. I have 2 boys. They're twins. I'll tell you who they are. I'm that proud papa. And whatever I say, I'm cool about it. They were in the group Exit 21. So they were social media Everybody was ending up, they had that pony song banging on the table. All those guys came up through here taking lessons, but 2 of them are my sons. And then I have a precious daughter. She's my oldest. And yeah, I learned a lot thinking that I'm going to get married and stay married for the rest of my life. I'm going to raise this happy family with the picket fence, the whole nine. Got my house in Long Island. We chilling. And then that D word shows up. You know, the second D word. The first D word got my wife pregnant. Second D word showed up. That's that divorce. And that's a process that no man is ready for. Women are ready for because they talk about it. Brothers, we sit right there at the urinal, right next to each other, taking a piss, and we don't give any information.
We don't say a word. It's illegal to speak when you're in the John like that. That's a violation.
Right, none.
Manny's a chatterbox, by the way.
So it was tough raising your children when situations are bitter. You know, right. So first I took that road. All right, well, cool. You keep the house, you keep this. I'm gonna go to LA, do my music thing. I left, boom, boom. My kids went wayward. And so I came back and had to go to court and fight for custody of my children. And I actually won custody, won custody of my kids. And that's a hard thing for a father to do, unless the mom is cracked running on the street butt naked. Right? But this was a good woman. And so one of the things I represented and said to the court, and I'm gonna say this, I know you want to talk about kids, but I want to encourage every father who may be listening to say, hey, man, I'm never going to win in court. You're right. If you get that attorney who believes that. I represented myself. And the question I asked the judge, Manny, I said, we're running into a time where you'll have same-sex marriages standing before you. There'll be 2 men or 2 women. Now you have to choose who's the best parent. Not who's a good parent, but who's the best parent for these children. And so my argument to them was, I am the better parent, right? Based on the things I had done and for my kids and what I was in their life. And the court bought into that, and they granted me custody of my kids. And so I was able to raise my kids. And so I try to encourage all fathers, like, don't just pay that bill, child support, and think that you can't have custody. Nah, fight for custody for your kids.
Can I ask, and Kay, because we can't see you, I don't know if you're prepping a question, but I'll turn it to you in a second. You got in that situation, Bervin, and yeah, I think most guys would agree, like, it's probably not going to be in my favor, so almost like, why fight it, right? Yeah. But that's also the excuse, right? It's like the easy way out a lot of times. What made you decide, I'm going to fight this because I believe this is the right thing to do?
For some, it's an excuse, but it's a reality.
No, for sure.
I mean, if some people been down to family court on a Monday morning,
chill.
That line wraps around the corner of fathers disputing the opportunity to see their children. I didn't know that existed because everything we heard about many fathers of color is that they're shiftless, lazy, and irresponsible because we see them. But we don't see the one that's online fighting for that opportunity. And when I first went, and I had to say, this is the line? For me to, try to get custody of my kids, I had to get on that long line. And to have everybody yell at you, everybody scream at you. For every judge that you stand before and you say something to, they look at you as that you're nothing. That's a hard position, and you walk away defeated. But you know what? You're right, man. You got to have that made up mind that says, no matter what, my kids are that important.
I think also what's important to kind of clarify or point out is that you said that she, your ex-wife is a good woman. Yeah. So it wasn't a situation because many people will get into these child custody disputes to spite each other. You genuinely thought that your children were better off with you, not because she was bad. You just thought you were the better parent. That's important to highlight.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. And I'm not the only one. There are several other fathers out there who are the ones that take their kids to the dentist appointment, to the doctor. You make sure your kids are fed, that they're happy. You create a nice home environment, right? Doesn't mean that she's a bad woman, but you're that glue. Right. Why would you give that up? So, yeah, if nothing else on this call, if any parent, any father out there, and here's what I would say, and this is why I ended up starting a father support group. And I remember when I first started it, I had a bunch of men in the room, and one guy was an old dude, maybe about 70, 80 years old. And he says, it's always been this way, Harris. that fathers, mothers were this way and fathers were that way. He said, I remember he never met his dad until he was like 18 years old. And he's from like Alabama, some country place. And he says he was sitting on the step. And he said he always asked his mom, could he meet his father? He said, you want to meet your daddy? You want to meet your daddy? You see that man right there pushing that wagon? That's your daddy. And he said he would always see this man pushing the wagon. And he never knew that was his father. So what am I saying? This kind of behavior, this kind of like, like not having the child being involved with the father because of vindictive behavior or angry or whatever of the system, as we say, has always been. But it's the made up mind that makes the difference, right? Like, no, nothing's going to stop me from being with my children.
Yeah, I'm wondering how you dealt with the actual physical distance. So when the divorce happened, and then you're on one side of the country, your kids and your ex are on another.
Yeah.
How did you mentally deal with that?
That was rough, and it wasn't the right move to make. What I felt was like, hey, this is not a healthy environment. I don't want my kids to see us argue or go through these differences. You can have a whole town. Matter of fact, keep the whole city, right?
Right.
So I broke out. An opportunity came for me to do a stage play in Los Angeles. I hopped on a plane and I set up where I can come back every 5 weeks. And I would spend a week, go back. And it crushed my kids. It really did. And they started acting up the whole nine. So I left that situation and came back to New York and, fought for custody, as I mentioned. But also that was the birth of Renaissance, Manny. So when I came back, I was like, man, what am I going to do while I'm out here? And I started this nonprofit. So not only did I become a full-time father to my 3, but I became a full-time father for hundreds of other kids. And it was a great way for me to spend a lot of time with them because I was their basketball coach, their track coach, their music teacher. It worked out perfectly fine. It could have been scripted better,
Let me ask you, and I feel like we might have touched on this in our history together, but I don't think I ever got like a complete answer. So I'm going to ask here. What from your past inspired or motivated you to do what you do today? Like, particularly like because you do treat every individual that you come across as a family member, dare I say son or daughter, depending on their age, right? Like what was that in your upbringing, or how did you end up getting to this point?
That's an easy answer for me, man. There are a lot of kids who have a mommy and daddy at home, but have no parents who are supportive, right? So I just wrote a song. The song is called Care For Me. We're going to release it this summer, and it talks about that. Where my mom felt like being a good parent is like food is on the table, you got shoes on your feet, and that's it. Her job is done. I take to church on Sundays. So here's a guy like me. I'm playing football, I'm running track, playing basketball, science fairs. I'm involved in everything. My parents have never seen anything. Sir, as you know, I'm a musician. Capitol Records, the whole nine. My parents have never seen me play keyboards, my mom saw me play drums in church. Outside of that, never saw any of those things. And then it left a void for me. Q, who I started the organization with, he told a story once. He says, hey, man, I remember one game I was playing at St. Bonnie. And I looked over in the corner and I didn't see my dad. And how it bothered him the whole half of the game. But the second half, my dad was there. And I was like, Dad, I ain't never seen my dad in a game. So one of the things I wanted to always do is be there to support kids. So even the kids that I meet, whether it's Renaissance event or not, Mr. Harris, I'm going to play at my school. When is it? I go show up. Is your mom coming? No, Dad can't make it. All right, I'll be there. Parent-teacher conference nights, I'm there. So I show up to all these different schools all the time and stay in space for these kids on a regular. But that's the void that I didn't have, and I had 2 parents.
It's a great point. Like
it seems like a lot for your kids to have to share you with everybody. Like, does that have any impact at home?
Great insight, man. You spot on, boy. Woo! You know what? When we were going through it, I never knew it. When they got older, they talked about it. Because we was going through it, because we always had someone at the house, hanging out, and it was always an extended friend or extended family member, so they always enjoyed it. But as they got older, maybe my daughter, and it's because a lot of kids will call you Pop Harris, or that's my dad. He's like a father, and my daughter be like, "Hey, easy, I'm the only girl, right?" So yeah, it did have a little bit, and it's gone full circle. In the beginning, I didn't know because they were loving and enjoying, like, who's coming over. Then they talked about it, but now that they're more mature, they talk about it all the time. Like, "Hey, Daddy, I'm sorry for even feeling that way, because this is like a calling on your life. Like, these kids need you." Da, da, da. And I say, "Hey, you guys, they've matured into that." But there was a point in time where they felt some kind of way.
But how do you? Wait, sorry, Kay, but to just follow up on the question, like, how do you as a parent, like, how are you able to juggle all this? Because I'm just thinking about myself with my two kids. Like, it's a lot of attention, a lot of nurture, a lot of time, and now you're giving almost the same to an entire borough,
Yeah. Well, I look like I act as though I have a job and a part-time job. So I do a lot of hours, right? But I make sure that my kids get their own time as well. So, I was a PTA president at their school. I coached at their school as well. So the bigger question is, when do you sleep, right? So I really did sleep. So I went from working here and then always being with them. So every fishing trip, every camping trip, we did it all just as a family without the outside influence. So I made sure that I made that kind of time for them. And even with my twins, I have twin boys, and people don't realize twins need their own time as well.
Right.
So there are some times where one twin got to stay home. You and I going to dinner, or you and I just going outside in the back and we're going to shoot some hoops, just to build that bond. But it was a lot, and a lot fell on me, more so than just not getting any rest, to make sure that my own family had that time. And your wife, your loved one, or your spouse, or even friends. Manny always wants to come over. I haven't had Manny over yet.
Yeah, foul. And we're damn near neighbors, and this guy doesn't invite me over, but it's cool.
No, but we're gonna definitely make that happen, though.
Oh, you know how many years I've been hearing that?
Yeah, that's some good insight, DJ. You're right on it, though.
Okay, you had something.
Yeah, I'm wondering how. This kind of goes along with your kids and then your extended kids. How are you able to get your extended family, these kids that you come into contact with, to trust you? And do you find that the way that you're able to get them to open up and hopefully trust you maybe doesn't necessarily work with your own kids, or didn't work that way? Kind of knowing that they didn't tell you how they were feeling early on and then confided in you later on. Like, how do you balance that, trying to figure out the trust and getting them to open up?
Yeah. Great question, man. Trust is never absolute, right? So, no one ever trusts you 100% of the time. My children and I, we have a really great relationship, and even them, there are things, of course, all kids are going to pull over your eyes that daddy just didn't know about. And it's funny, man, because, and I'm going to talk about the other kids in a second. I'm going to talk about my own children. Sometimes that trust and respect almost looks like fear. Because I used to tell people that sometimes you can't tell the difference of respect and fear from a distance. I remember going to the doctor, because I would take them to all their doctor's appointments. And my daughter, you have to really hog tie her to get a needle, right? So she goes, "All right, Mr. Harris, we're going to need you in here." So I said, "All right, fellas, y'all sit right there. I'll be right back. I go in the back with your sister." And we go in the back, and all you hear is screaming and yelling, da da da. And we come back out, and there was a woman. She was in the waiting area. She said, "Oh my God, they sat right there. You must whoop that ass at home. I tell them boys didn't move." So I said, "Nah, I don't spank my kids. But there's just that level of respect. The dad said, sit here, so we're gonna sit here." And so how did you get there? You earn that. So even in discipline, there's something called aggressive discipline, and there's an inductive discipline, right? The aggressive discipline is my mom. My mom was like, "Mom, can I go outside?" "No." "Why?" "Because I said so. Get out my face." That was mom's answer. But I went to my dad, said, "Yo, Pop, can I go outside?" He said, "Well, Bervin, it's raining outside. You don't want to get your clothes wet." I said, I am the fly guy, Dad. You're right. You make a great point, But we learned something from that. Number one, I can go to you and still don't get to know, but you gave me no with a reason, and I still felt a level of dignity. That's called inductive discipline. People don't want to take the time to do that, right? But that's what makes the relationship better. But to answer your question specifically about other kids, I try to earn their trust. And I try to earn their trust like the uncle that comes over your house doesn't want to be bothered, right? So if you ever notice, we had a family affair, there's the auntie, he goes, is that my baby? Oh my, come here and give me some sugar. I love you. Those are the ones that the kids run from, like, oh, right? But it's the one that's sitting over there, he wants to have a cold beer, don't want to be bothered. The kids go to him. They want to pat him, they want to sit on his lap, because there's something true about you. You're being yourself. And so what I do with the kids, I make myself available. The kids are here in the program. They know Harris is always here. I have an open door policy. And then it's like I earn your trust. In your darkest moments, you know that you can come here. And the moment you're there one time, 2:00 in the morning, you in the middle of the streets, you're at a park, you got no place to go. I'm the one that's coming to grab you, get you out of jail, the whole line, because we know the precinct pretty well. The word gets around. Harris got your back. So that's how we try to do it. And of course, like I said earlier, we try to offer quality service. So when you walk in this room, you're not going to see a studio or a music room or a Zoom room. We got a whole zoology downstairs, with snakes and fish and crazy stuff downstairs. When you walk here, you're like, this is a blessing to be here. I'm going to respect this place. So those are some of the things that we try to do, is the quality and just earning that level of trust.
You said something a little bit ago about how you create pockets of time across all three of your children that's dedicated to them.
Yeah.
We just came back from a trip to Florida, visiting a sick family member, and something resonated with my wife as we were having this, going through this trip. Our kids, almost all three of them individually, said some comment. It was subtle, and if you weren't really paying attention, you wouldn't think anything of it. But my wife caught it, and it was, I forget the exact words that they used, but each one of them at separate moments said, like, almost like they wanted to have one-on-one time with their parents, right? And I'm paraphrasing. And my wife took it really serious, so much so that we mapped out a plan, almost like an outline of like how we're going to do this. Because we've got a 15-year-old, we got a 8-year-old, we got a 6-year-old. So we can't, yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, it's been that long since you told me that I can come over, and now my kid's a teenager. So now we're kind of thinking about something exactly what you just said. It's like, all right, how do we activate that and have it be something that's consistent? Start it off like on a monthly basis and pull each one out, spend quality time with them, like outside of just in the living room. Like, let's go out with them somewhere, do something that they individually enjoy, and make sure the other two are taken care of while we go and do that as mom and dad. Yeah. But it hit me. I'm like, like if she wasn't there to catch that, I would have missed that. And that is probably going to be really significant in this next, version of our parenting.
Yeah. I think it's very important, and it's tough, Manny. Busy as you are, you got a lot going on as well. Like, where does that happen? But you know what? That 20 minutes, that half hour, that hour, that half a day, based on what you're doing, is way more valuable than a family dinner, right? So you find out what it is that they want to do, what they want to, and most of the time it's not about what you're doing. It's just like, I just got you to myself.
Yeah.
And maybe there's some things I didn't want to say amongst my other siblings, or maybe I don't even want mom to know. And if I'm with mom, I don't want dad to know. But now I just got you. Can I ask you a question? Right? And that question has been lingering for 2 years, but I never had you alone like this. It's important. It's critical.
It's deep. Let's talk a little bit about what you do and I hate to say it this way, you're probably going to beat me up for this one, but like, people who get incarcerated I look at as like, and not that I look at them or feel this way, but society, I feel like, treats people this way, like a forgotten population, right? The children of those that are incarcerated, I'd argue are even more invisible than the prisoners themselves, right? Because at a minimum, the people behind bars have some social interaction with other people. They are a statistic somewhere. They're getting fed. Like, we know where they're at and kind of what they're dealing with for the most part, right? The children that are left behind are left with a disaster many times. Sometimes they're single parent homes, so now they're kind of on their own. The government steps in. Like, there's all these different things that they have to contend with. And there's a shame involved in their ability to really just be who they are, right? I know you've come across kids in the program that have been through this. How do you help in those circumstances to help them deal with that, but also just try to live a normal life?
Yeah. There's two things, right? Number one is that you try to meet them where they are. And one of the things that we do a bad habit as social developers or practitioners, we always assume that they're going through something, or they're going through this. Oh, your dad isn't here, so you're going through that, or, you're in a shelter, so you're going through a lack of belonging, right? No, you won't know until you ask them, until you get that kind of quality time to kind of figure it out, try to be there. A lot of times what all these young people are looking for, if you can imagine, Manny, because you helped me one time with a Boys to Men group we were doing. And if you remember, I don't know if you were with us on that night, I had to go speak at One Police Plaza for something. And then I took them with me because I'm committed to them. Every Wednesday night was theirs. I don't care what's happening. I'm going to be there. And a lot of time, that's what a lot of these kids are missing. It's like the consistency that, are you going to be there? And so I told them, I said, hey, I got to speak at this event, but y'all coming with me. So I took them all. And it was crazy because when I got up on the dais to speak, I brought all the kids up with me. I said, I want you to give a hand to my Boys to Men group. We get together every Wednesday. I'm so proud of these young guys. They were just there like, hey, I did a whole speech and they stood right there. But you know what was crazy? That was a big moment for them.
Yeah, I remember
they felt like, you took us up there with you and we sat on stage with you. So what am I trying to say? Like, it's just being there consistently without any excuses, right? And I said there was two things. The other thing is that, man, I have a love-hate for parents. I know I'm on the Fatherhood show. I get it, but I really do. Parents are a lot of times the major part of our problem, which is, I'm sure, why you have this show, to address those things that we are ignorant about. Ignorance is lack of knowledge, right? So you can spend all the time, talking about conflict resolution, negotiating skills, and how to effectively communicate. But unless you get mom or dad in the room, sometimes you're spinning wheels. And so what I try to do now a lot is work with the parents as well. Like, you already know, I have a program called I Belong, which is a recidivism program. So for parents who are formerly incarcerated, on probation, so on and so forth, I have a program for them. We come here, we have dinner. I do a social development class. And I get them up here on some musical instruments, writing some songs, just so you're not thinking about what's happening, because I'm playing Mental Ninja. I'm all up in your mind, right?
Rent free.
Yeah, it's really about empowering them, right? That's really what it's about. So when you leave here, you're better than what you were when you came. And so we have to address this. We can't forget about them, Manny. We are definitely a full community, those who are formerly incarcerated or not. We got to figure out how to, we have that total inclusion.
Yeah.
And that's a process that's not happening. A gentleman left me today. Perfect example. He's incarcerated for 7 years. And he came in and his resume just said, lie, 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 lie. So I said, yo, man, be honest. Where you been? He says, yo, man, I was incarcerated. I said, go. That's part of the step, right? So now let me see if I can get you on board, because you got to be fingerprinted and stuff like that to be around kids. So I got to see what you're incarcerated for. But I can write letters on his behalf based on what he's done. But I can see he's a father, he got 2 kids. He's trying to figure it out. But when you get out of prison, there's not a program for you. You got to go figure it out. And you can't get a government job. You can't work for the, for the state or for the city. So only private institutions can hire you, and they're very selective. So yeah, we got to work with the child, and also, figure out how we can reach the parent.
And I'd imagine that working with the children, it goes back to having that ripple effect, because when the person's incarcerated comes out, it's so rough for them already. For them to come back to maybe a child that's having problems, that could be the one thing that they throw up their hands and go back in the system because they can't even cope with that. So by
Yes,
what you're
sir.
doing, by helping and supporting these children while they're dealing with their incarcerated parent, that's helping the parent come back and kind of gradually come back into the community and kind of give them some hope. Okay, you know, wow, it's like the community, the village that's helping.
Yes, thank you. When he was here, I said, man, I don't know if I can hire you with fingerprint. You get you in the system and see what's up. But I gave him a tour of the whole facility. I said, whether I can hire you or not, you got 2 children. I want to show you what we do here. And he was just like, yo, man, I'm here for an interview. You're just overwhelming me, man. And he said, just what you're saying. I'm looking for something to get them involved, and you're helping me find something for my kids.
Yeah.
You know, so that is critical and important. And we don't have a directory. You know, if you go to another town, you're in, I won't tell everybody where you live at. You live in where all the rich folk live at, Manny. But when we go to your, when I go to your town, there's a directory that tells you everything that you can do where you live.
Yeah.
Where's a swimming program, who has this, that. In New York City, it has more programs than any place in the country. We don't have a directory. So one of the things I started, we have the, this is not a plug. We have an app that we are working on for teenagers. So if you come and say, hey man, I want to do fencing, I want to do diving, I want to do these types of things that are untraditional that you can't find, where do you go? And I'm having this app run by young people. We're going to populate it this summer, and it's called Youth Connect, I believe. We got the app developed. Now I just got to populate it. But yeah, it's important to be able to find things to get kids involved and they can connect to.
That's ill. So, damn, I didn't know we were doing that. That's great.
Yeah, boy, remember? Yeah, that's what's happening.
I mean,
good job, Manny.
You invite me over, maybe we can have these conversations more often.
There you go.
Shots fired.
Yo, but on that note, because I gotta go, handle some stuff right now with the kids. But the thing I just want to give you an opportunity before we head out of here, just to give us a little bit more insight into how interested people here that might be listening might want to get involved. I know you're tied to the 5 boroughs, but are there things that you're either doing now or considering doing that can tie more communities into Renaissance?
Absolutely. Well, the MWAM band travels all over the country, and you know that already, right? So once again, it's an opportunity to see teenagers in a positive light. So we go out with that show. We are starting to do some things in New Jersey. Not totally. My thing is where's the need, right? We want to go where the need is at. The other thing is that we become virtual. So nobody asked for COVID. COVID just showed up at our doorstep. And one of the things, we weren't prepared to do virtual classes, but now we are. So those of us who are listening, you can probably put in the bottom, renaissanceyouth.org, renaissanceyouth.org. So if you go to that website, click on virtual, there's piano lessons, drum lessons, guitar lessons. We have cooking classes, STEM classes. So yeah, get involved. That's all over the country, all over the world can get involved in that sense. The other thing is that we're looking for partnerships. One of the things that young people don't get an opportunity to do, and fathers don't either, is like, how do we find like-minded individuals? Listen, 5 boroughs, we got 1.7 million between the ages of 18 and 24. Where are they? They're not in the parks. They're not in the shopping malls. Where are they? And so we're losing a whole generation of people who can't even socialize. And so we're looking for people that we can kind of partner with, interact with. So that's something else that we want to get involved with. So if you're doing anything like-minded, like what we're doing, let us know. We'll come to you.
Collaborate.
Collaborate. Yeah. And if I could say in my closing remarks, I know you got to go. I just want to encourage all fathers. I really do. It's hard being a male, many a male of color. And it's really tough being a father these days. And many, if you're not a father who's with with the baby's mom, or however we call it, baby mama, it's tough. And I'm going to tell you, rise above. Have a fixed in your mind that no matter what, I'm going to be there. I don't mean be there by getting a pair of sneakers, buying some shoes, or showing up to a baseball game every now and then. I mean like really being there in that dark moment when that child. We have so many kids that are who are cutters nowadays. So we talk about cutters. That means you're just cutting yourself. That's not a female thing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's male and female. And you're talking about a darkness, right? Ask kids to roll up their sleeves, and here you are 9, 10, 11 years old, and you're already sexually active, right? And you don't even know what you're doing. right? So fathers need to be involved in that sense. And so I just want to like plead to all the dads who are doing it. Congratulations, keep doing it. But then pick up another child. Like I can't handle all of them. You know, you see a kid on your block. Listen, help them out. You on the train? If, you know, I understand we get a little nervous and scared. Sometimes I get it. I respect that. But if you're not, educate somebody. Another child. Grab somebody. We need it. This world is it's getting scary. Really, really scary.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. I like Discovery channels. And so it was a thing about the rhinos and the elephants. And the rhinos were killing the elephants. And so they had a specialist come in and say, hey, what's going on? Because whenever you go to the zoo, they always hang out together. And the guy was looking and says, hey, wait a minute. These are all teenage rhinos. They don't know better. So they went and got adult rhinos and put them into the inhabitants, who basically taught them, like, man, we don't kill the elephants. We kind of inhabit. So it's the same thing that we're going through here, right? So our young boys and girls just don't know. And we as adults aren't saying anything. And they need to have a male's perspective.
So it's something that EFN talks a lot about on Drink Champs. Like when you look at, so you take that same sentiment, that context, you apply it to hip hop, the generational divide between generations of hip hop, right. There hasn't been a good handoff from one to the next in order to help folks kind of find their path.
And the older generation is afraid of being older. Like, stop being afraid of it, embrace it. We could find our own path. We could still be cool in our own way. We don't have to act like the youth, because that's what kind of example is that to the youth?
Yes, totally agree. Let me ask you a question. Did the young population accept Nas' performance the other night? Because he was blazing.
I mean, I hope so.
I hope so. I think the bigger question is, did they even know that happened? Because they're probably not even paying attention.
They're not watching TV.
Well, I was watching some clip the other day, and it was like, it was about Gen Z and music, and they started talking about different groups and playing music, and they brought up Ice Cube, and they played "Today Was a Good Day," and the kids were like, "Yeah, this is a cool song. Never heard it before. I only know him for being a movie star." And
wow,
they're not checking for for that. So that just kind of shows you what we're up against. We missed. There's kind of like a middle connector layer that somehow we missed to bring the ages together. And I don't know where we slipped up.
Yeah. Bervin, man, thank you for joining us. Once again, if you are interested, renaissanceyouth.org. No funky spelling. That's the actual word, renaissanceyouth.org. Find out more. We could always use help, financial, all sorts, services that you guys provide, anything, recommendations, all of that. The center needs it. The youth need it. And check. Bervin's got a dope YouTube page also. Bervin, how do they find you? Bervin, Bervin Harris?
Yeah, Mr. Harris.
Mr.
RYC.
Harris.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the plug.
Yeah, you got it, kid. All right, I'm going to show up to your house tomorrow, whether or not I'm invited. So prepare yourself.
I got you, man. I got you.
All right, brother. You take care.
Much respect, man.
Keep up the great work, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.